Welcome once again to The Lost Signals discusses games and gaming culture, a pretentious, philosophical, pedantic podcast where we focus on various aspects of video games as well as other issues and topics within gaming in general. Hello and welcome back to The Lost Signals discusses games and gaming culture. I am your Avalanche HQ leader, Scott Thurlow, here with my fellow eco-terrorists of Avalanche, Jonathan Ian Manzer.
Final Fantasy VII's back. Tupac Shakur is back. We're returning to the 90s.
The retro times. And Stephen Amosi.
And as you just heard, we just won a battle, so we're raring to go.
And yes, so we are going to, in fact, discuss the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which came out a couple of weeks ago, in which, not oddly, but this doesn't always happen. We all have concurrently roughly been playing it, the same game. And given that Stephen Amosi claims it's his favorite game ever, we're discussing impressions, etc. So with that, Stevo, what do you make of the remake so far?
So it's interesting. I really enjoy it. It really lengthens your stay in Midgar.
So I've heard.
Which is the first part of Final Fantasy VII. I'm a little bit not upset, I'm a little bit disappointed that I'm not going to see a bunch of these other characters that I really want to see what they're going to look like. I'm going to have to wait till the other two games come out. But in the meantime, this does a great job of showing what the original Final Fantasy VII, I think, would have looked like if they had the technology of the time. That was a game that really, really displayed what the original PlayStation could do, especially in terms of cutscenes. And it's the same in this one. Which it's been a while since I played a game with this amount of cutscenes in it, where it's you can't do anything, and it's kind of weirdly almost distracting. But I'm still really enjoying it because I'm getting to live in this world again, which I really loved the first time. And I really like the new combat system. I think it's a great update to the previous combat system. I really like what they're doing with the characters and kind of fleshing out Cloud's relationships, I guess, with Tifa and Aerith, and even Jessie. And what I will say is it's a little bit weird to have the dialogue spoken, because a lot of times it's
a little stilted, or
a lot of times it's good, but a lot of other times it is, as you just said, stilted and just very strange. Things that worked as just text on a screen don't necessarily work as spoken dialogue,
voice acted. It's funny because I've seen that not complaint, but I've seen that criticism in various other things, and I don't necessarily disagree with it, but yeah.
But otherwise, it looks amazing. The combat's incredible. I really enjoy it. And going through and fighting all these old enemies and rejoining all these old friends, I guess, has been a lot of fun. So,
what do you think about it, E? Because you also have a not a nostalgia for it, but you did play the original when it came out, roughly. So, what's your take on it?
It's my Final Fantasy VII is my 5th favorite Final Fantasy.
Okay.
Final Fantasy
behind 6.
3/6 is my favorite one. Final Fantasy Tactics, which came out concurrently with Final Fantasy VII.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like 8 a little bit better than 7 in certain ways.
I've seen that also.
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 2 was great. This is my 5th favorite one. I played quite a bit of them. And overall, this one. So I just came off of Nier Automata. But this is not about Nier Automata. I am in love because I grew up on all the old SNES RPGs.
Sure.
And I love the updates that in the combat systems, because nothing grinds my gears more than stopping
grinding your gears
3 seconds
to fight a new shit. Yeah.
And then this one, the narrative flows a lot better. So they had to replace all of the stops of fighting random battles with more content to make it. I think it was 5 hours of content in Midgar previously.
roughly.
Well, yeah, that's not counting the 3,000
Grinding out the
hours
frogs and
of
whatever, yeah.
fighting all the random battles. And overall, I'm very impressed with it. Graphically, it's absolutely stellar. And I don't know how far to go into this, but I think that Final Fantasy VII, you had to impart your own imagination into it. It reminds me a bit of playing an anime.
Yeah, I can see that.
With things I like about animes and things I don't like about animes being an American audience. So I feel a lot of people grew up with Final Fantasy VII, imparting their American experience into Final Fantasy VII with their imagination that I put in. And where, yeah, that lame dialogue was there originally because there's characters in there that are humorous in Japanese cultures and tropes there.
Yeah.
Caricatures,
which don't necessarily play well with American audiences. So I think that a lot of the conflict initially
some of it might be lost in translation to a degree.
Yeah, but more so now that it's more of a visual medium than it was prior, and with the absence of American imagination. But overall, I think it's. I haven't completed it yet, but I'm very impressed so far.
So I mentioned this possibly before on air, but I will reiterate here. I did not play the original FF7. I did not have a PS1, and nor did I get a chance to play through it. Like, nobody was willing to lend me their PS1 or let me play enough of it to like go through the whole story. So like, I don't have the baggage attached to it, like either in a positive or negative connotation. So I wasn't impressed with the demo. I will say that they gave out the demo, like, of course, like a week or two before the remake release. I was like, just not out of sheer boredom. Like, all right, I'll check it out to see what's up, because I know you fellas, my friends, like you, like I said, did play the original, have whatever attachment you have to it, but I didn't. It's the biggest blind spot in my video game history, given my claiming of being like, I'm a great video gamer, like blah blah blah. So when I was very impressed with the demo, for sure, 100%, and I was like, like still like even more like, yeah, it was good. Other things are on my plate. You guys like sort of like convinced me over the line to like, might as well just do it. So given that, I will say, it probably is the best game I played this year that released this year so far. Even if that's a small field that I played so far, like at this point. But yeah, like I was quite impressed with it. I thought the combat was fucking sweet, for sure. Like I expected actually there'd be grinding, because I thought they were going to import, like you said, like the random battles or whatever. Like there isn't that. And that does lend itself to them being able to expand the narrative. Now, whether or not you think that's a good thing, of course, your mileage might vary. But I did finish it. I beat it like 2 days ago, like very recently, right leading up to this episode. And I cannot say to you like, oh, like I don't know relative to the original, like what I should tell you, because I don't have any connotation for it. What I can say is I had a good time with the game overall. I probably poured about 50 hours into it and was mostly impressed and like engaged throughout. Now, yeah, like to your point, like, some of the voice acting I think is generally good. It's actually pretty fucking solid and sells it a lot. Like it sells it beyond like the written page, even if the written page is a little like off-putting, or can be at least at certain times. But yeah, man, like I had a good time with it, and they've got me now. I'm going to get the rest of the series, which maybe we'll get into after this in a second. But I'm just saying. Sorry, Steve, before you go on, like my impressions of it were very, very like highly, like very positive. So
yeah, I just want to say that I was really on the fence whether I was going to get this game initially, because I didn't know if I wanted to spend $180 on one game. To me,
sure.
like, right, like it's gonna be one game broken out into 3 games. I didn't know if
or more, which we'll get into, but yeah,
or possibly more,
multiple episodes, yes.
But the demo did sell me on it. I played the demo and I was like, all right, I'm back there. Like I'm back in the reactor. Like I really want to play this game again. And it got me to where I needed to be to play. Now, what I would ask of both of you is, I also have not finished this game like Ian, but I think Ian knows kind of what the ending of it is. Please do not spoil the ending of this for me, because I hear that it's different than what happens at the end of Midgar in the original game, and I really want to have that be a surprise.
That's fair. Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mention like I was going to say spoilers at the outset, but like I'll try to avoid that. So I'll just say this way, Stevo. Allegedly, they do a weird meta commentary upon the expectations of what the audience knows and is expecting, I guess.
I have my own ideas about what might happen, but I don't want to know until I actually get there. I'm like chapter 12 or something right now, so there's not too much more of the game for me. But
yeah.
I hold very little sacrosanct in this world, so I don't mind someone coming in and changing
Messing with the canon,
as long as they do it with a solid purpose behind it.
Mhm.
And,
With a clear vision. Yeah.
That's what's I think that some of the most beloved works out there that are remakes are ones that take it in a bold new direction. Although in recent years there has been that combat between preserving the old with going towards the new. I think Star Wars is a perfect example of that, with the divisiveness of that. And I'm all for it. Like as long as there is a vision behind the change, exactly. I'm perfectly fine with the adaptation.
Yeah, I mean,
completely agree. That's why I don't want it to be. That's why I'm trying to avoid spoilers on it, because I want to see whatever is different with new eyes. Yeah.
I'll say it this way: I know the original spoiler. Like, there's no way I could have avoided that. Like, it's all right. So spoilers for a different franchise, and I don't think you guys will mind this. Snape kills Dumbledore. Right. Okay. If you don't know who those characters are, what that means, in context, you're not going to give a shit. So, like, I know, like, X character kills Y character from the original Final Fantasy VII. All right, nice. But, like, since I have no, like, emotional, like, like, old attachment to it, even though I know that is the case, and they don't even adhere to that, like, necessarily, like, in the vaguest terms possible, it doesn't matter in a sense, because I was still along for the ride and I was like engaged with what they were doing with the narrative, and plus the gameplay, which is very fucking fluid. It almost reminded me of Devil May Cry, like in a sense, because it's more action oriented. But you can pause and switch. And this is something real quickly, Steve-O, you asked me about this personally the other week. I tried classic version. What it is that the AI is now attached to your own character, your PC, and just attacks automatically until they build up the ATB bar, and then you can choose things. So it's not actually turn-based. It's not what you think it is.
Oh, so it's not the actual classic. Okay.
It turns it down to easy difficulty, and like you can literally just let go of the controller, and your AI will attack like naturally, and then you can choose when the ATB bar builds up, you can choose what to do. So like it's slightly different than what you think it is.
Kind of hate that.
Like it's not.
I'm
like,
never gonna play that way.
You might as well just play them like how they have it, because like they clearly like wanted that to be the way for you to engage with the actual gameplay, and I think the mechanically in that sense it really works.
I love what they did with it. Yeah.
I never want to go back to the old
Strictly
style turn-based combat because after both Nier and this, I think it's some of the best kind of. The melding of the action adventure with the traditional JRPG elements is a perfect blend for me.
I kind of agree. It works really well. And like, I'll say this, like, of course, the main character is Cloud Strife, and like they want you to play as him. However, when you have a full party, you can switch to whoever. And I fucking loved Tifa's abilities. Like her combat stuff is amazing. Like it was so cool, and it was also like mechanically helpful the way they set it up. Like. All right, let me ask you guys a quick question. I don't know if this is true. Is that stagger mechanic, which I have in this one, was that a thing in the older one? It wasn't, right?
No.
But that adds, like, that's another layer of combat, like, viscerally. That changes a lot how you're going to approach every combat encounter. And once I got, like, a couple of abilities of hers, I was like, Tifa's my girl. Like, I love her shit. Like, I love her abilities. I'm going to build her up. Like, I'm going to stack her with all the cool, like, materia and all the upgrades and stuff.
I have a big question for you, Ian. This might be the only thing that I prefer from the old combat style, and I'm not even sure that I do prefer it, but I've been like wrestling with it. What do you think of the new summon ability, like how summons work in this one?
I actually think it's fairly cool. I don't know if I like that their abilities are attached to your action
ATB.
bar.
You have to
Yeah.
assign them. Yeah.
I think
not
that
how it
could.
worked, obviously, in the original.
No, it was just a one-off spell.
Okay.
You played Final Fantasy 3. It's the same thing with Esperus. When it just
shit. Okay.
there'd be like
I
a
did not
nice,
know that. I
like a
legit
well
didn't-
done graphical attachment to it, but beyond that, it was just a one-off
I
spell.
legit did not know that.
So I actually like the addition of the summons. Just that I think they could have had perhaps their own bar that they built up or something like that.
Just do it.
And I'm excited to see how like Knights of the Round look when that comes around.
Yeah, I'm super excited for
Well,
this around.
The thing is, it's funny because like I know that's a thing from it. It's one of the most it is the most powerful summon, is it
Yeah.
not, my friends?
It
Like,
is, yeah,
Do you think they're going
by
to
a
do
wide
it?
margin.
They're
They're definitely going to do it.
They have to include it.
They
Oh,
have to. It's one of the most known things from Final Fantasy.
There's actually they've already proven there's certain beats. There's certain things they're willing to stray from, and there's certain beats they
Have to adhere to.
have to hit. And I think that's one of the kind of beats they have to hit.
Sure.
It's going to be like a late game, like third or however last episode thing that you can get, and it might even be like optional because Knights of the Round was an optional summon. Like
Yeah.
you didn't have to get it, but
You don't get it like automatically.
It
from
might
the story,
be
right?
the VR guys like thing.
it was actually really difficult to get. But everybody got it because it was the coolest fucking thing, you know? Like
Sure. And it would also it looked cool and it was like, useful. It's right. Like of course
Yeah.
it's the most powerful summon, so it just fuck things up.
Mm.
So yeah, like I don't know, man. Like I could just say to you guys this way: given that I have like the blind spot there, and now having experienced it from start to finish, they've got me. So to like address to what you said, Stevo, and Ian and I were talking about this precast. So what Square and the developers have said is that yes, while this is an extended look at the intro from the original, we're going to release maybe smaller like chunks of it, but more often. So there might actually be more than 3 games, but they might cost you like $40 or less or whatever. So here's the next chunk of it. I know it's a big leverage, like, oh, it's only the first 5 hours of the first game, would stretch out to like 40 or 30. Like, yeah, maybe that's true, but I had a good time with all
that's a complaint of someone who
of the nostalgia mindset.
who wants to preserve their memories of childhood. And
I would say, or it's somebody who is like, theoretically, really, this is one game. Like, why does it cost me $250 to buy one game? You know, like.
But it might not be that. It might legit be like, again, another. If the next episode is like $25 and it's 30 hours of content or whatever, like roughly.
Fair. I don't know. We'll see how they do it.
Yeah, Square hasn't actually said like exactly how they're going to do it, but they have said like we're looking at producing like generating them more often in smaller chunks, therefore to get you the fans of story and not make you wait another 5 years for like, because the original remake was announced in 2015.
Yeah,
we're doing it, and then like
I do hope that they split it up into like $20-$30 chunks.
Yeah, I think it's a smart business move as well, like sort of.
Although I wonder if there would be playable without owning the
original
games, or do you have to have the same save files for everything going forward?
Well, that's the other question: is do you need to have played all of the previous ones to play the?
Yeah,
new?
no, that's just the question I just asked.
But that's what I mean. Like,
do I need a dedicated PS4 to?
Well, that's the other thing. Like, if by the time that this all. By the time the last one comes out, certainly PS5 is going to be out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, how are you going to move those save files?
On network, so that'll work.
I mean, there's ways around it, but, like, is it going to make any sense if you play the 4th game of this out of context?
Right.
Like,
that's a legit concern. Like, oh, Final Fantasy Remake Part 3, like, well, why? I'm not going to delve into this one, like, because I'm missing the first 2 parts, right? You're right, like, and I don't have an answer. Square doesn't necessarily either, to the degree that you want them to have an answer.
The Turks are still cool.
Yeah,
that was
at least that's preserved.
I need them to be the coolest motherfuckers in the world. They always struck me. And here's the thing: is even though this was part 1 of an ongoing series like that, I was fully invested in the world they built. And I think that I got enough time out of the content, especially since I am going to go platinum this, that it's going to be my money invested in $60
Yeah,
game.
I mean, like I said, like to your point, I spent 50 hours just doing the first playthrough. Like, yeah, a couple of bosses, a couple of side things, a couple of VR, like the summons to fight to get them. Took me like a couple of tries to do, like an investment, but I feel like I got my money's worth. I don't think it didn't feel padded to me.
Yeah.
Again, like without having the comparison to the original, personally. So like, yeah, I did feel like I never did. I feel like, oh, they're jipping me or they're padding it, whatever. Like, while I have heard that complaint from other sources, my personal experience I thought was legit fine, and like I can certainly see them like they're gonna do a bundle, like, oh, down the line, right? You can buy them all. Like, you're right. Like, however,
Sure.
to temper that, to you guys' point, to the point you raised, Steve-O, is that, yeah, like, should someone randomly jump into episode 3, like, release 3 without playing the first 2? Probably not. But that release will probably be smaller, like, at least according to Square themselves, right? The way they're ostensibly going to do it. But I feel like I had something from my notes, like my personal notes. It has its own sense of being a complete tale, even if the cliffhanger sequel bait is obviously baked into it by nature default.
I'm also I paid money to see Sid Highwind be badass.
Oh, dude, I'm waiting for Sid. I'm waiting for Vincent.
Oh yeah,
Like Red.
Yeah.
I can't wait
Kate
for Red.
Sith? No one's looking. No one's
Kate Sith.
looking.
What about the chocobo breeding thing?
But like,
that'll be down the line.
You joke about Kate Sith, but I really do want to see the Golden Saucer, right?
Mhm.
Like,
I guarantee you, all that stuff, even some of that stuff doesn't mean anything to me, but I know it's meaningful, like impactful, like relevant to the original thing, and I
want to see
it.
all of Jehovah's forms.
yeah,
There are things again back to my imagination, things I had to imagine as a child, things they only hinted at. Now I can see it fully fleshed out in all its glory.
And Scott,
I think this is a culmination of a vision that all Final Fantasy have had before this. What I think the glory days of Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, so like, I wanted to give some shout outs real quickly to the developers who worked on it, because many of them are, veterans for years. So Tetsuo Nomura, who worked on many previous Final Fantasies and Kingdom Hearts, is the director and the character designer, right? We got our boy Watamu Toriyama, who also worked on previous FFs, co-director, scenario designer, right? And just for you, Yoshimuro Kitatsu, Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 6, and other Final Fantasy, but mostly 6, producer, right? Then you got Kazuchi Nojima, also previous FF's Kingdom Hearts as well. He's a story writer, and the composer Noboru Uematsu, right? So they brought in they were like, we need to do this remake. Like, fans have been clamoring it for years. Like, we're the guys who did the original. Let's do it now. And like, almost like the dream team thing, like from Chrono Trigger in a sense. So like, you know what I mean? Like the original visionaries are still attached to it, and now they can work with the technology and the graphics and so forth, the voice acting that, like you said, in your mind, maybe in your imagination, you filled in the gaps, but now they can literally render it for you and make it that much more visceral and that much more like engaging, or you can invest in it. So
I want to go in a slightly different direction. I want to ask you guys a question, since you mentioned the composer, and I've been thinking about this since I started playing this game. And actually, I was thinking about it when I bought the original Final Fantasy VII a few months ago, just to like try and replay it, which I got through like half of it and didn't quite finish it. But does the music not sound just like Twin Peaks music?
Sometimes, like 2 times maybe.
Think about it. Like, go. Honestly, everybody, go listen to the soundtrack from Final Fantasy VII if you like Twin Peaks, and tell me it doesn't sound like Twin Peaks.
I mean, it can.
What
I guess.
I really enjoyed, and they're hit or miss, are the records you collect in the.
They're so good.
I like that as a thing. Yeah,
Tifa's theme is fantastic. These reimaginings of the classics. They go they put it, make it jazzy, or make it like goofy, or whatever they do with it. Like I actually look forward to finding these little the new reimaginings.
Yeah, those are I mean, you know what I mean? Like, just in general, any game, I'm gonna seek out collectibles, but seeking out the songs again without having necessarily. Like, I remember the Chrono Trigger songs or Secret Amanda songs better than these, of course. But even so, I'm like, damn, man, like, it's every time that a soundtrack dropped into a certain scene, I felt it was very, very fitting and really like either epic or tragic or like melancholic, etc. Like, it fit the tone of the scene that was happening.
Also, a great way to indicate that there is a rest stop nearby, like a really brilliant way. Like when you hear like a different music playing,
Yep.
you're like, oh, I know that I can go find a bench somewhere
Yeah.
nearby. Like that, like
Exactly.
just little things like that they did in terms of
Little world building
the
things. Like,
ambiance, like telling you what was
Yes.
going on in the game was so brilliant. The way that
Yep.
they did that.
you're right. The ambiance thing, like I don't know, man. Like again, like it has that classic sense of like all the spells and all the shit, like all the materia you can slot into all this and that, like all your equipment and so forth. I think it does like it is, like I said, legit the best put together package production wise, and like just entertainment value that I've played this year, even given the fact that I personally have no attachment to the original.
So one of the biggest changes they did was the addition of side quests, and also mini games.
Were there
to a
not
certain
side
extent.
quests in the original?
By the way, go do side quests. And anybody who's playing this game, do the side quests. They should be required.
Well, is that a good thing, or like did you enjoy them?
I did. Overall, I thought it added a lot to the world. It didn't feel like filler. Even if I can see like that complaint being leveraged, I had no problem doing every side quest that ever came my way, and I got the achievement for doing them all.
So,
What do you think?
I think I did enjoy a lot of the side quests, not all of them, but I think it almost doesn't even matter because the point of the side quests in this game is to do what this game is doing differently than the original Final Fantasy VII, which is fleshing out the relationships that you have with people. So you do a bunch of side quests with Tifa, you do a bunch of side quests with Aerith, which I've done. Those are the two that I've done with so far, and like those really flesh out the relationships that you have with those two more than happened in the original game. So whether or not you love doing side quests or not is not really, to me, like material to whether or not you should do them. You should do them because you get that information.
Get
about
more narrative out of it. Yeah.
See, similarly, I liked doing them to get more information about the town I was in. I understood playing the original that the relationship between Cloud and Tifa and Cloud and Aerith. Although I do enjoy the fact that it's much more fleshed out, and I actually think much more believable their relationships in this than perhaps just reading the text. But to see Tifa's relationship with the Seventh Slums and Aerith's relationship with her community, all of the Five Slums, whatever it is.
Second 5,
To see how that these are characters that exist in the world as opposed to just you're being a mercenary going through and being like, oh, guy with a big sword, kill this thing for me.
Right.
It makes the world feel a lot more
Believable.
a reality versus just kind of another town that you're wandering through.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree. Like I felt like they struck a really good balance. Like, oh, man, in my mind, again, from the old school JRPG days, like there's going to be a million things I can buy and this and that. Like the items and stuff, like they're spread out and they're not like, they don't pound you over the head like, oh shit, should I choose like the same thing for all my party members, blah, blah, blah. Like there's only a few like big items that you can buy and or acquire throughout the chapters. So it's not overwhelming in that sense, right? Like I thought it was really well balanced and paced out.
Grinding for gold to buy the new equipment in the next section you go to.
You can't grind in this game. Like you can like afterwards, but like there's not in the sense that you remember from the old school days.
So there's an interesting thing about the grinding thing, right? Like when I got to the Coliseum where you have to do a bunch of battles,
sure.
I was basically out of money. So I was like stuck in fighting those Coliseum battles, and they have you
have to pay money to do them.
They have a vending machine. Well, that's later. I mean, the initial Coliseum where you don't have to pay money, but they have a vending machine that gives you cheap, like really good items.
Right.
Like at that time, like you can get like mega elixirs, which are mega potions, which are
very helpful for
like amazing for that. And they're like 100 gil each or whatever. And I didn't have enough money to buy all of them. So I was like, shit. Like I was so furious, but like you can't just go like leave and grind, right? Like you have to just like deal with it, suck it up, and try to fight without them, you know, like which you can do. It's not the end of the world, but like I was like, oh, I could have had like 6 more mega potions at the end of this.
Gotta conserve
because-
yourself, fool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel you. But no, like I think they struck a really good balance between like what you remember, even if not from the actual original FF7, from the old school late 90s, early 2000s days of JRPGs, mechanics, and like design wise, but updated and modernized with technology that we have come in 20 years.
Absolutely.
So like I don't know, man. Like I really do think like it's absolutely worth playing, and again, even if I have no emotional, nostalgic attachment to it, I think this is a fucking really well-designed game, like overall, and I was impressed with it. So,
might I? So, like before, it sounds like we might be wrapping up soon.
no,
But
I mean,
want
you got something to talk about. You hit me.
I want to bring up something that was like super satisfying to me, and it was something that was super satisfying in the original game too.
Yeah.
It's
So they
just
retained it. Yeah.
It's just this dumb little thing. But
Squad game.
but yeah, yes, that.
Yes,
but that's not what I was thinking. That's not what I was thinking of. Have you guys killed anyone as a frog yet?
Yep.
Because that is amazing.
Accidentally once, I was like, dude, I didn't know that was could happen. Like I didn't know when that first happened. I was like, I switched to a character and I was like, why am I a frog? Why are my abilities like limited to like bubble, spurt, and leapfrog?
Yeah, when you get frogged, it's like you get so nerfed, and like killing an enemy as that is the best thing it feels so good.
Yeah, Steve, I think I did accidentally. Like, I think two of my characters got frogged, like got frog cursed or whatever. And so I switched to Cloud. He was still unfrogged and was like just beating shit. I was like, all right, because of instinct, because of like how I was doing it, I switched to like probably Tifo, who was like my secondary attacker. So I was like, oh, I'll just use whatever ability is available. She took out she took out the last sliver of health from whatever enemy that I was beating up as Cloud.
I must also say I enjoy the enemies bind your characters because that also makes me have to switch characters.
Yeah,
especially at the beginning when I'm playing as Cloud all the time. Oh, now Cloud is trapped, so let me switch to Tifa. And I enjoy playing as Tifa. I think that was actually a really good element to add to encourage characters.
And it makes you you're right. That's a really good point.
Switching.
And like that was cool for me. Like obviously that probably wasn't true of the original because you're just doing turn based, right? Like you select Tifa's move, you select Cloud's move, you select Barrett's move, whatever. But yeah, like being able to switch on the fly and like being able to like slot in different like Barrett became my hero like oddly like for a long span of the game. I put all the healing shit on Barrett, so therefore he could be like shooting shit with use your machine gun arm, but also heal me, please.
I use him as a healer too because he does have that like lifesaver mechanic, and
he's got a ton of life too. He's got a ton of HP like naturally,
HP
right?
Like,
So
yeah, like it does like when you
tanky healer.
Yeah, on the surface you can like do a lot of cool strategies of like I don't know like slotting into very specific things depending on what you find. Even like sometimes you might, or some players might not find some of the materia, like some of the bigger ones or some of the more useful ones, but they still give you enough to work with and able to slot them around. And like even the upgrades, again, the upgrade system is not too extensive, but robust enough to allow you to adjust to like if you have a different play style or different mindset. Yeah, man, like I thought it was all really well designed and really well balanced.
Let me ask you guys: Do you do auto upgrades to your weapons, or do you manually do them?
Manually.
Really?
I have to.
Manually.
Yeah.
I do
have
auto.
to choose what I want.
I do auto. I'm not interested in
you lazy bastard.
I'm not interested in spending hours doing that shit.
There's not hours to choose. Like
I spent hours throwing darts at a dartboard until I got the trophy on it. I will go through my
I have like 15 weapons right now. I'm not going through all of them trying to like SP bump them all. Like
I get it, but like
give me defense, give me offense, whatever. I don't care.
I don't know, Steve. Like I mean, I would do that in any game, of course. So like this one was perfectly fine, like no problem.
And I like the fact of how they set it up with almost the orbiting planets.
Does look really cool.
It's a cool visual, right?
It does look really cool.
Makes sense. Yeah, I want magic power up on X character. I want attack power up, or I want defense up, or whatever.
I want more materia slots in this weapon because it's got good strength.
I got 12 points left to spend. I'm gonna get an extra materia spot. But yeah, to answer your question, I did it manually always, just because like that's just my play style in any game like this. But it was cool that like that they allowed you even to have the option to do both.
I like that they give you
credit.
several options for it.
Yeah.
Like if it was like do it automatically or do it manually, I would do it manually. But it's like, all right, you can either do it balanced, offensive, or defensive. I was like, all right, now I could pick. Like I'll just let it do whatever it wants for that. I just know kind of what I want to do for this character. And you can also jump back in there and like add things manually whenever you want to as well.
And even if you don't like it, like there's an NPC, I believe, who allows you to reslot it anyway.
Yeah, you can redistribute if you want to. Yeah.
So, man, like overall, I think I had a good time with FF7. It took me like a good 2 weeks or more. Like again, 55 hours, like a little bit going back, like playing when you unlock chapter select, I did like one or two things just to see the other outcomes that I couldn't have done, and like maybe like grind out a couple of extra boss fights or whatever, or bonus boss fights. So.
I was a bad professor for a couple of weeks.
Gotta blame FF. Gotta write a square letter over there. But yeah, man, like I don't know. I'm sold on it. Like I was, and the funny thing is, like, or at least ironically, I was not sold on the outset. I was like not dead set. I was like, I got other shit to do, other games to get to before FF, like blah blah blah. But I guess the virus circumstances and just happenstance, I was like,
actually,
you know what? I'm good with it.
You asked me, and because I'm going to bring it up because I love it. You asked me whether you should get Nier or Final Fantasy VII. I'm like, Nier is deeper, but I think you'll enjoy Final Fantasy VII more. And I think that
I think you are right. And I'm still going to get Nier eventually. But I think for the immediacy of it, and just to play a game that came out this year, and like see how like my I don't know, my narcissistic statement is like, I am the best critic because I don't have any attachment to the original, so I can objectively review it. But it was still a damn fun game, and I think they had a good narrative going.
All right, I have one final question for you guys. If you could if you could put the Final Fantasy VII treatment on a game from your past, what would it be?
I'm going to see what answer first, but I've got two things in mind. Very good question, though.
Well, my first answer would be Final Fantasy VII, but that's already happened.
Too late.
I don't know. Like I'm tempted to say like Metal Gear Solid.
The very first one?
Yeah, the first Metal Gear. No, Metal Gear Solid, not Metal Gear.
Oh, Solid. I'm sorry. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha.
I think that would be a really fun game to add new school stuff into. I don't know. Like there's a ton of like that would be really interesting, right? Like there's a game. This is a really weird one, but like there's a game called Ape Escape, which was the first game that ever.
This game's awesome, dude.
Yeah, right. It was a great game. It was the first game that ever used the sticks on the PlayStation controller.
Yeah.
And I think that would be really interesting to like redo with all the stuff that they had, like with all the other inputs that you have on a
available stuff. Yeah.
And like you know, PlayStation has the pad or whatever now that is like so underused by many games, and I think Ape Escape would be a really interesting thing to like go back and like, oh, now we're gonna show you how to fucking use this, just like we showed you how to use the joysticks.
Yeah, I like that.
So that would be cool. There's a million games that would be really awesome, but like that's the first two that I thought of, so I'll leave it there.
All right, so obviously you want me to say, like, I would say Chrono Trigger, but I don't know if that necessarily is the treatment that, like, the FF treatment would be relevant or applicable to Chrono Trigger. However, I would say FF6/3 would be cool because they've already, like, the test run has been proven. They could obviously do it. Secondarily to that would be a game I've...
Magitech in this...
yeah.
That'd be amazing.
It'd be fucking so sick.
Marble Madness.
So I'm going to discount Secret of Mana because they've already remade that. Mm-hmm. So that's fine.
But not with the Final Fantasy.
Not the same engine for sure. But Illusion of Gaia is a game I've always talked up, underappreciated. If it was already like, it wasn't a turn-based RPG even back in the old school days. So like it's already actiony. So it's easier, I would think, to translate it to modern day and just give it a nice graphical treatment, like the fucking high production value that FF7 has. That would be awesome. So what do you think?
Oh, I have so many. What's
your top three?
But because you already took Final Fantasy VI, I'm going to say Lufia 2.
Ooh, yeah.
And Breath of Fire 2.
Yeah, those are both good picks.
But I think that if you haven't played Final Fantasy 3 and was supposed to, watching the world end, you losing the game halfway through,
the world of ruin shit,
is something that I think we can all, our generation can understand.
Yeah.
Um,
And
I
resonate with.
Can I add one more? Do any of you guys remember this game, MDK?
Nope. I don't think so. What was it
it
for?
sounds familiar.
It was a PlayStation game.
Okay, yeah, that's why I don't remember it. But
Obviously stands for Murder, Death, Kill, but it was this really fun,
it's obvious.
fun game. Also, Soul Reaver. What the hell was that?
That sounds familiar, my friend.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Something Soul Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver would be.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
That is
yeah.
I got you.
That'd be a really cool.
Yeah, man. Like I don't know. You're right. Like the treatment that Square gave this, I think, can be applicable to a range of games within the same general bubble. That'll be really, really cool to see, like remade. Nowadays.
I'm hoping that this is
a new trend.
No, where I feel like the SNES and early PlayStation were the golden age. I hope this is the next age of the great JRPG.
Yeah. I mean, I would love it if that was the case.
And honestly, we're talking about games that we would love to see remade, but honestly, I would love to see new games in this style or similar styles.
Well, that's
something new.
I haven't particularly enjoyed many of the more recent Final Fantasies. I feel like they strayed from their
from the roots
hearts. What this? I want to see them go back to the sort of steampunky,
steampunk plus like vaguely
magic punk in a sense.
Yeah, magic punk is good.
World that they've built, and again, I want to see it head back to that. Not necessarily the European fantasy, which was dominated by Bethesda for a while.
Sure.
Just like this JRPG, like that kind of slice of the world.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. So, like, of course, like FF7. So here's the last. I'll leave off with some numbers that I looked up. It's ridiculous the fucking sales on this shit. So what it is in the first 3 days, it sold between physical copies, which are a little bit harder to get nowadays, or were even when it released on May 10th. 3.5 mil copies in 3 days.
March 10th?
Which is, no, sorry,
April 10th.
Yeah. So that's 3.5 mil copies between both platforms in 3 days, which is the fastest selling PS4 exclusive, topping both God of War and Spider-Man, which both sold 3 million copies in the first week.
People need video games right now. Doom sold like crazy. Final Fantasy VII, a property that everybody already loves, is gonna go like crazy.
Of course, it was almost ingrained that was gonna be like a huge big seller, but I guess real life circumstances conspired to help it out in a sense. But yeah, it just destroyed sales. So they obviously recouped their fucking investment.
But Animal Crossing, man.
Animal Crossing crushed too. I was gonna say that.
Tom Nook needs his money, sir.
I like Animal Crossing.
Don't you dare not pay Tom Nook.
I'm not going to pay Tom Nook. I'm never buying into Tom Nook's shit. That way I don't have to pay him back.
Tom Nook's going to shank you in your sleep.
Probably. That would be the greatest ending ever. But, my end at least. But I think, given our impressions of FF7, it's really quite worth it. Whether or not, you're, again, like me, somehow, the biggest blank spot in your video game history, or you love the original, I think it's worth it either way. And I'm interested to see how they're going to do the next sections of it, whether it's going to be smaller and cheaper, episodes, if you will. I guess I don't know what to call it.
Or just take my money.
Yeah, that's what they say they're going to do. But either way, I think they've got enough people invested in both the original or new fans. So
if you pull a Capcom Square with just re-releasing your entire back library upgraded, fine.
I'm okay with that.
Hey, Final Fantasy 6 next.
Yeah. I agree with that as well.
There you go.
Yeah, so I think that will do it. I believe we have to bow to Sephiroth right now, and we'll get the fuck out of here. But I have been Scott Thurlow. I've been here with my fellow party members, Jonathan Ian Manzer.
I prefer a little bit of Kefka.
And Stephen Amosi.
I have nothing clever to say. I'll see you later.
All right. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Thank you for joining the Lost Signals Games and Gaming Culture. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows and more, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.